Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. With me in this episode, I have author of a personal development book with another book on the way, and he's an intellectual, a member of Mensa, and also a transformational coach who also enjoys reading. Jeevan Matharu, welcome to the Dave Palma Show. Did I pronounce that right, by the way?
Yeah, that will do, Dave. Yeah, thanks for having me on. You'll know yourself. Sometimes the pronunciation is very slightly off, and
that's right. Yeah, my surname's the same.
With.
Yeah, my surname's simply Palmer, but people say Palma and all kinds of things. And I forgot to ask you, so I should have done that first. But
okay. Anyway, it's one of those where I haven't got a name like John Smith, so it's not as simple as it
exactly. Yeah. Well, anyway, so you've got two books coming. You've got one book on the way coming out, and one already out. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we go into other things that you're doing, your coaching and everything else?
Yeah. So the new one that's coming out should be out hopefully by the end of the year, but as with anything, sometimes things take longer than expected. The book itself is a question a day. So one of the things that people have issues with is reading a book and making time to read the book. So what I've tried to do is to break it down into a page a day. All you need to do is 1 page a day of this book, and it's not a book that you just read, it's an interactive book. So it will be a question a day that will help you to improve upon yourself. So a self-reflection book, and you can journal and write stuff down. So your question may be, well, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Okay, great. And what does that look like in terms of your career, your family life, your social life, your monetary income, and writing down a plan of action really for that 5 years? It might be a question such as, well, with your business, how could you improve your business threefold in the next 12 months? So if we were to take you, for example, Dave, in regards to the podcast, the subsequent questions would be, well, how can I get improved guests on the podcast? How can I reach a wider audience? What demographic of audience am I looking for within the podcast, etc., etc. So these are the sort of sub questions that come off the major question. And if you think about over 12 months, if you've got 366 questions that are quite deep introspective questions, much like you get with coaching, do you not feel that would improve upon your trajectory of your life? Absolutely. So that's the reason for the book. And as I said, it's not quite been named as yet. Much like a baby, sometimes it has to be born first before you name it. Much like the book, I want to ensure that it's got the correct name.
Yeah, it's a bit like doing a dissertation or a piece or something like that. You kind of put the name after you kind of got all the whole thing together, really.
Exactly.
You start off with a question.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the book that's coming out you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about a book that's already out, the personal development book? Is that?
So what I realized with personal development is there's so much information out there, but not in one area, all in one place. So there's books around how to improve your psychology, books on how to improve your communication skills, books on how to set goals, books on just personal development on the whole, books on how to motivate yourself, etc. Books on showing gratitude, delayed gratification, all those sorts of things, and they're separate books. And what I realized is that there's not really one book that covers all of those areas in a one easy to read manual. It's obviously my first book, so I came up with the idea of creating a book with 25-30 chapters, as we said, all in those different areas that are all really aligned to personal development on the whole. If you want to become your best self, you need to improve your communication skills from a 2 to a 9, as an example. You need to improve your physical state from a 2 to a 9. You need to improve maybe your goal setting skills from a 3 to a 7. And if we work on that conveyor belt, we will then become our best selves. Much like opposite to a tree, really. A tree, once you plant the seed, it grows as big as it can based on the resources available. Whereas humans don't tend to do that. Humans will smoke, they'll drink, they'll eat poor meals, they won't exercise correctly, they won't focus, they won't strategize on how to become their best self. And then they end up 5-10 years down the road wondering where things have gone wrong. For me, and one of the reasons that I've got into this space is I was very smart at school, as you mentioned previously. I'm a member of Mensa, which is, for those who aren't aware, is for those who are in the top 2% of IQ. I actually got into Mensa recently, but at school I didn't have the mindset of someone who was successful. I'd mess around. I got kicked out of school. I was on report cards pretty much all the time, getting kicked out of class. Yeah. Whether that was down to me not being stimulated enough is questionable, or whether it was just a mindset thing. And as you mature, you start to realize, you look back at the past and say, well, what could have changed? What could I have done differently? How could that have gone better than it had done? And that's where the research started, and started to realize that actually everything comes to you once you are your best self. If you look at Cristiano Ronaldo or Roger Federer or Messi, when they have mastered their craft, everything else comes. They get great spouses, they get loads of money coming in, they get people knocking at the door for things. They can walk into any bar club in the world and get treated like royalty. So, not saying that I'm going to get onto that level, but
you don't know, do you?
Yeah. Well, this is it. You don't know, first of all, and you have to aspire to be something.
Yes.
The first thing you have to have is a self-image. Ronaldo has a self-image as I want to be the best in the world. So does Messi, so does Roger Federer. Yes. And then you have to live into that image. So for me, I've got my own personal things that I want to live into. You obviously mentioned judo there. Took that up at age 30.
Yes.
I did do it for a few years.
You took it up at age 30?
Yeah, I did it a few years as a child for a few years. Okay. But what I did is I sat down, and again, these are the sorts of questions that you have to ask yourself. When you're a child, you have a specific interests for a reason. You are generally interested in things that you are naturally good at. If you're getting Fs in maths, you don't like maths. People who say they like maths are generally getting A's, A stars, and are really good at maths. People who like, I know you mentioned that you're a sprinter. You would love sprinting as a kid.
Well, actually, I was sprinting as a kid, but I was actually a middle-distance runner. I was actually a 400-meter runner at school, 200, 100, 400, but I actually was reasonably good at 800, so I was mostly for it. So it's kind of sprinting.
But you were into running as a whole, things can change over time, because obviously you've grown into your man's body, and then you will refine your skill set. But running was the overarching position, wasn't it?
It was, before I became a firefighter,
I did you. So how long have you been a firefighter for now?
Well, it's 25 years, so I've retired now. So from London.
You retired?
Yeah.
They've got a good pension scheme, actually. The
so one more
defined benefit scheme, isn't it? Yeah,
that's right.
I deal with that in the wealth management side, but we can maybe talk about that.
That's what I say. We'll move on to that in a minute because of what's going on around the cost of living going up. So well, let's talk about this first, and then we'll move on to that.
So I started judo at 30. Did it for a few years as a kid. And I sat down and thought, well, what did I really enjoy as a kid? Because that's going to give me, it's going to be good for the soul. Because it's all well and good talking about money and people chasing money, but a lot of people who are earning decent money aren't happy in other areas. And there is a wheel of life, isn't there? There's career, relationships, hobbies, interests, fitness. In the mind, are you happy? All these sorts of things.
You've got to look at your whole life, haven't you?
This is exactly
all in sync. If you just focus on just one thing, just the fitness only, it's not probably, something might go wrong with your relationship, and you might end up just getting depressed, and then your fitness goes down the drain and things like that, without you realizing, or your sleep, sleep's important.
Yeah, exactly. And you do see this sometimes, don't you, with couples who go out and the woman's left him because all he does is exercise 8 hours a day. Yes, his physical shape will be 10, but his relationships will be 1. So how can we maybe knock things down a few pegs and work things out? And I'm not saying, look, if you've got aspirations of being in Mr. Olympia, obviously that probably even takes precedence over relationships.
Yeah, of course.
To some extent.
Yeah.
But let's just look at this on a pragmatic basis. So I sat down and said, judo is something I liked as a kid, and I was okay at it. Let's get back into it at 30. And now that I've got the mindset I have, books such as With Winning in Mind by Lanny Bassam, and other books, including my own, out there that help you develop the right attitudes and the right mentality, setting goals and continuing to improve. I've actually done pretty well so far.
Yeah. No,
to number 11 in the rankings. I'm not even a black belt yet, which is unheard of, really.
Well, now you
So
told me
yeah.
that you took it back up at age 30. I mean, that's pretty good to be ranked 11th. I mean, there is that age is kind of just a number as well. That's what I notice in athletics. So you could have a world record holder you have had a world record on the 400 meters at 20 years old at the moment for the 400 meters, but you also have one at 40 years old, so
Exactly.
it's not,
people develop at different stages, don't they?
Yeah, there's late developers, there's late starters, and that's, it's got nothing to do with age in that sense, so
yeah, I mean, sometimes it can work in your favor because your body hasn't been used up. If you look at a car and let's say that it can do 200,000 miles before all the parts go kaput, and someone's been doing sprinting for years since they were 4 up until 30.
Yeah,
a lot of their knees and joints and muscles can have a lot of issues. Whereas someone maybe waited till they're, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the best way to do it, by the way.
yeah,
They wait till they're 20, realize they're all pretty quick, and started at that point. Not that they've got fresh limbs and fresh joints, but they've got more mileage left in those joints to use maybe at a point where their body's in a better physical shape. So that's my way of looking at my current situation, is saying, well, maybe I've not got some of these issues that some of the younger guys who have been doing it for 20 years have got. Maybe I'm coming in a bit fresh, and maybe that's what's there working for me. But I don't know. Yeah, something that I'm really interested in. And what you think about day to day is what you become. I think about judo a lot. I think about the transformational coaching side. I think about writing books and stuff. And what you think about comes into fruition. If you think about the house that you're sitting in now, Dave, it was first designed in the mind of an architect. He thought up the idea of this house, how it's going to look, the measurements and all that. He then wrote it and drew it down on paper. Got it obviously vetted, sent it to the architects. They built it, and here you are. Much like everything else, everything's built in the mind first. The book, I already finished it in the mind, really, the idea and the structure, before I started writing it. Obviously, as we talked about earlier, things can change along the way, but the basic idea is there. Any business, Amazon, he started that in the mind first, and then he obviously brought that into fruition. Your podcast, you would have thought of the idea for the podcast.
Yeah.
And then you start the ball rolling. How do I start a podcast? Maybe Google it, get the equipment and all this sort of stuff. So, how can I get guests on? Who do I contact? And the same with anything else. So, for people out there who are upset with their life, first of all, what are you upset with? Is it a relationship? Is it the money side? Is it where you're living? Is it your physical state, etc.? And then try and think of ways out of it without using, that grey matter. There's no way that you can put yourself in a different situation, and that's really a real key message for everyone, that you're the master of your own ship, aren't you? If you haven't got a destination in mind, like on a sat nav, where are you going to end up? So you obviously live in Chesterfield, if you were to drive from London to Chesterfield and you didn't put anything on the sat nav, how would you know which way to go? You'd end up driving around London. You maybe go down to Southampton or something and thinking, well, where the hell am I? Yeah, it's okay in Southampton. It's quite nice here. They've got a beach and stuff. But is that really where you wanted to end up?
Yeah, so you need a roadmap, like an action plan, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and things change. Things change though. You might have a roadmap to go in this direction. You get to the next junction and think, actually, I don't like this direction that much anymore. maybe I'm going to veer off slightly.
Or there could be some roadworks, and it could be totally blocked, or something's happened, and you have to now change the whole plan, or route.
I mean, you're a prime example of the running.
Yeah.
You maybe thought that you were going to be a 400-meter runner, and then a sprinter, and then you change off and you're now an 800, or you were an 800-meter runner.
That kind of thing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it meanders across, and you have to just take that on board as part of the journey. People tend to stop. You mentioned roadworks. Roadworks can be a good thing because they divert you to a different direction. But sometimes the obstacle or the roadblock is the way that you should be going, and the obstacle is a test of character, to see whether or not you're made of the right material or not. So it really depends on the situation, and obviously that's why coaches are here. That's why friends and family are there to talk to. That's why mentors are there. That's why books are there, to learn from people who have had experience, or who have had experience of people who have had experience, and to talk about those things in order for you to make the correct decisions, or as best you can, in terms of moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So let's just move on now. We spoke earlier about the financial crisis and you being a financial advisor, and obviously, yeah, I've got my pension there, but I do have to actually, I'm trying to monetize this business. It's it's a podcast business with some coaching like yourself and books and things like that. So it's similar kind of thing to what you're doing, but with the podcast, with my own experience giving it out, like everyone else does. But I'm looking at multiple streams because the pension won't be enough with the cost of living. I have to admit that with what I have to deal with. How would you go about telling people now to deal with what's coming to them for this next recession? Some people say, I had a financial advisor from the States. He's dealing with real estate, and he's saying, well, these things come and go, but what would you say in terms of being a financial advisor yourself?
Okay, so a couple of things. You mentioned multiple streams of income. Absolutely, because if you've got multiple expenses but one income, there's this does not match up. So if you've got multiple expenses, you also need multiple incomes. So you said whether it the podcast thing and employment and a pension and this and that. If you look at any wealthy person, they have multiple streams of income.
Yes.
But it may come from a primary source of income. Yeah. So what they may do is have a business that generates huge profits. They then use some of those profits to channel additional income. So they put it into real estate, put it into stocks and shares with dividends, or put it into income generating assets. And then that will be the additional revenue streams, but it still came from one original source. Not everyone can have 4 or 5 sources worth of income that come independently of that original income. So that's the first thing. With regards to inflation, it's a very difficult question to answer because there's really 2 sides to the coin. One is that obviously inflation is transitory and it will go away at some point, and the way that it's being controlled is through in interest rates. Yes. So when inflation goes up, interest rates run parallel, generally within 2%. Because if things are going up by 8%, 9%, and you're getting 0% in the bank, things are becoming very expensive very quickly. Yeah. So that's where interest rates try and calm down the economy. Now, you've seen that in the UK, interest rates have been risen a few times recently, and that's why that's been done, to try and keep things under wraps. So that's the more textbook way of looking at things, saying that, okay, well, interest rates and fiscal policy, monetary policy can sort of dampen these things down. There is also another way of looking at it, and that's really off the back of the COVID pandemic, and to say, okay, well, if we look at America for a moment, obviously they've got the dollar, which is the global currency in the world. Who's used for the petrodollar. Every other currency is pegged to the dollar. They have the reserve currency. In 2020, during the pandemic, they printed 40% of the money ever printed in America in 1 year. So that's 40% in 1 year, and that's well over 100 years worth of printing. So that side of the coin, again, there's never one right answer. There's always looking at different ways of looking at things, looking at the facts and viewpoints, and then maybe taking a balanced view of those. But if that is the case, well, it is the case, is that going to have a knock-on inflation long term? Because if inflation is normally 2 or 3%, and then you've got this huge jump in money printing from the major currency of the world, which then has a knock-on effect on other nations. Number one, is that the major cause for inflation? First point. Again, from the COVID situation, and supply chains have caused huge issues, or the supply chains have been disrupted massively. Has that had an impact on the cost of goods, services, food, etc.? And the third thing is the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Obviously, with the supply and demand is obviously the key to any industry. And with Russia not supplying as much oil, does that then drive the price up because the supply has decreased, which increases the demand? So there's all of these sort of variables that mix into one melting pot, and then it's up to us as individuals to try and interpret what that means and how we can best place ourselves. So your pension, as an example, one of the reasons that those defined benefit or final salary schemes are so valuable is because they have inflation protection attached to them, whether it's on part of the pension, all of the pension, or whether it's on the pension limited to a certain amount. So some pensions are to 3%, some are to 5%, as an example. But even for yourself, if inflation was to be at 9% and your inflation is only at 5%, you're still losing 4% a year in real term. In real terms, rather. So how can we offset that through additional income, through other means, being more resourceful to offset that? Look, we're all in the same boat as well, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, obviously the super wealthy have got some sort of advantages given their level of revenue and income and savings, etc. But for everyone else, we are in the same boat. So it's not like you've been singled out. Everyone's in the same boat. So that's why I feel that governments are going to have to do something, whether it's to give money out for certain things, whether it's to cap bills to a certain level, energy prices, consumer goods, or to ensure that businesses within a certain economy cannot make substantial profit increases. So if you look at BP, or I think it was BP, wasn't it, that made record profits this year?
Yeah, that's right. Well, most of them are actually doing quite well, aren't they? The old companies.
Yeah, exactly. So if oil is going up and the petrol businesses are making bigger profits, does that not ring alarm bells for some people? It does for me, because realistically, if the cost of oil is going up and everything else remains the same, then the profits should remain the same as well.
Well, it should do,
That makes sense. But it doesn't.
It doesn't.
So, you'll notice at the petrol pumps, when oil prices go up, petrol goes up pretty quickly as well. But when oil prices come down, the petrol takes time to come down. Okay, so that's another thing that happens that allows for businesses to, petrol and fuel businesses to make increased profits. They give a delay in that respect. Same with banks. When interest rates go up, typically the mortgages will go up immediately. If you're on a variable rate, you'll get a letter saying rates are going up. But there is a delay on current accounts, savings accounts, typically. So this is how they use triage. Obviously, when you're a big player in the game, you can play the cards better, can't you? When you've got dealt better hands, you have more control. If you've got a royal flush in a game of poker, you can control the board, can't you? Because you can put in more chips, you can call people's bluff, you can dominate the game. If you've got a pocket twos or nothing, it's very difficult unless you're going to play a massive bluff at the risk of your whole pot. You haven't got the same level of control. And with losses, just a side point on that, if you've got £100 in your bank account and you lose 20%, what are you now on?
80
£80. Yeah, £80. Yeah. Now, to get back up to the 100, you actually need to make 25% increase, because 25% of 80 is 20, which then takes you back up to the 100.
Right.
So when you lose money, you have to work hard to get that money back. So protecting the downside is massively important with investing, with any endeavor in life. You have to have a damage limitations, as they call it, with war, with any endeavor.
Yeah.
You need to maximize your upside potential as well. So the question is, well, how can you do that? Can you do that through investing stock shares? Can you do that through real estate? Because obviously real estate has gone up of late. Can you do that through providing value? So this is obviously one of the huge messages I've got is, yes, economy's bad. Everyone's in the same boat, as we've said. But there are opportunities. There always has been, there always will be.
Yeah.
Most people become rich in recessions.
Because
there are huge opportunities here to do things. When markets drops 20%, so look at COVID and look at Russia situation, markets dropped 20%, both in 2020 and obviously this year, almost year to date, actually. So up until the last month, world markets were down like 20-25%. Yeah. If you'd invested now or a month back, you've already made 5-6%. Because as with anything in life, you want to buy low and sell high. Most people are emotional, and when things are going really, really well, like Bitcoin, they'll buy it when it's at 20,000, it drops to whatever.
Yeah,
So
like Elon Musk, he sold all his
yeah,
bitcoins. Yeah,
well, exactly. So
yeah,
I think this is again what we've come back to. We need to provide value. We need to have the right mentality. If you can provide £1 million worth of value, so let's say you work for someone, and that's probably going to be most of the people out there, and you've got an idea at work. So one of the questions in this new book as well was how can you provide an idea to work that's going to generate some sort of revenue. If you had an idea at work that made £1 million over the next 12 months, whether it's through expense savings, whether it's through additional revenue, whether it's through additional profits, do you not think they would increase your salary?
Well, it should do, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, of course they will.
Yeah.
If you make £1 million, they are going to increase your salary. It
Yeah,
might
they
not be
should.
obviously at the £1 million rate. You know, you
No,
might get
no.
a 20-30 grand lift.
Yeah.
Fine, but 20-30 grand in your pocket is still better than nothing, isn't it?
Well,
The
it is,
attitude people have is, well, I'm not getting paid to do that. That's the wrong attitude. You have to provide value first before you get remunerated for it. If you went for a haircut and it was a shit haircut, you wouldn't give the guy money for it because he's not done the job.
No.
Sometimes you have to do things first. Football, you know, they want to see an experienced manager who's made mistakes before they are willing to pay a level for that manager. I couldn't go to because obviously Manchester United. I support Leicester City, by the way, but Manchester United are the hot topic at the moment because of the position they're going
struggling.
through.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
very, very big from top to bottom. Owners, players, manager.
Yeah,
they.
But I mean, in all honesty, it's only like 2-3 games, isn't it? I mean, I know you're saying they shouldn't be there at that position, but I support Arsenal when we had a bad start last year, you know. So
you're looking good this year, though.
Yeah, it's the difference there. Yeah, I mean, we did
Jesus
well.
has returned.
Well, yeah, I mean the player Jesus, yeah, but I mean, we still ended up almost, you know, in the top 4, even though we struggled like Man United did last year, you know, in the first 2-3 games.
I mean,
you know?
The thing is, for you guys last season, you pretty much missed out on the last game of the season, wasn't it? You played Tottenham, and that was the game, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's when it sort of went wrong, really. With the last derby we had with Tottenham, the usual.
Yeah. I mean, but look, if we look at the trajectory, so look at yourself 5 seasons ago when you were under previous management, things were not looking good for you. But your trajectory, you can see a clear direction of where things are going. You've got a manager in that's play a certain style. You're getting young players that are pretty fit. You know, they want to play good stuff.
Yeah,
that have come from sometimes big clubs. Odegaard I know he was somewhere else, but he was a Real Madrid player originally. You've got players from Man City, etc. And I know that, you know, maybe you've got the Man City players because Arteta's friends with Guardiola and he's maybe sorted his mate out, but that doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. You know, you're taking advantage of that. But you've got a trajectory. Man United's trajectory is negative spiral.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The players don't want to work for any of the managers. Managers getting thrown under the bus. The board don't seem to have an idea of what they want. They keep chopping and changing things. They need to understand that things take 5-10 years sometimes to come through. You know,
well, I was going to say they haven't been the same team since Alex Ferguson left, and that was like 5 years or
10
so
years ago,
isn't it? Yeah, so 10 years ago. So they just really start working.
They were trying to chase. You know, you can't chase money. You can't chase success. No. You have to provide value. So they need to say, okay, we need a manager who we're going to back with an idea, and we're going to give him what he wants, and we can see a job here, whether it's bringing youngsters through, whether it's buying the right players. You have to provide value first before something comes into fruition.
Yeah.
Klopp with Liverpool, he provided value. He's getting behind the players, very positive, arm around the shoulder. They like him. Because they like him, they are going to work harder for him. They work harder for him, the results pick up. Then other players want to come in. Then the results increase, etc., or improve rather.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to do in our own life. If you can provide this value and earn that additional income, you'll have less of an issue with the cost of living crisis.
Yeah,
just how it is.
Great analogy. I always like using sporting analogy as well. Anyway, so like yourself, it is good. You know, when we do a sport, we can put that to life as well. You know, so
exactly.
So, Excellent. Well, look. Before we go, just let our audience know where they can find your new book when it's ready, and when possibly it will be ready, and where they can find out more about you and your work and your coaching. Of course, you do transformational coaching, which obviously you've given some some taste of it now, haven't you? Really, in the show. So.
Yeah. So, in terms of the book, so the book that's currently on sale is called "Become a Person of Value." So, as we've talked about, if you become a valuable person, you upskill yourself, the income and your life will improve on a general basis. That's available on Amazon, paperback, or obviously ebook, Kindle. The new book will also be available on Amazon as well, and we're hoping that's going to be available towards the end of the year, maybe into 2023. But obviously, you will have to look out for that one. The author name is JS Math, so that's my sort of author name, as it were. Coaching wise, Vanquish Transformational Coaching. So I've got an Instagram page, and obviously you can just go directly to the website. We can have a free initial chat, no issues. It might be that we're not the right fit for each other, or it's something that I can help you with, whether you are having a really bad time in life and you want to just sort yourself out, or whether you are a 5 out of 10 and you want to get yourself up to a 10 out of 10. Anything can happen if you've got the right plan. So as we said, 30 years of age, took up judo, and now number 11. And that's come from, coaching myself to an extent. Yeah. So anything is possible. And look, they're probably the best ways to get in touch with me. And look, I'm happy to help anyone who is in the right frame of mind in order to want to get helped. The first thing is you need to want to improve first before anything can happen.
Yeah, you can't. You can bring the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. The old saying.
Exactly. Love it.
Yeah. I know. Excellent. Well, Jeevan, it's been a really great conversation having you with a fellow UK person, because I do get a lot of people from the States. I do get them from all over the world, actually. So I have someone from Hong Kong. He's a fitness expert, but he went to he went to high school in the US. It's actually my latest episode, so it's the last one. You can check that one out. So I do get them all over the world, so I've got a global audience. but nice to have a UK homegrown guest here. So yeah, thanks a lot anyway for coming on the show and speaking to my audience today.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thanks for having me on, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.